Next up is our panel, Don't Miss Your Stop, Using Tech in Tourism. Mobile apps, contactless payments, and IoT devices are just some of the technologies trending in the travel and tourism industry today. Technology can change the way people travel, providing convenience, safety, and fewer touch points. This next panel will discuss this theme. I would like to request our moderator for this panel, Mr. Mashhood Rastgar, Chief Technology Officer at Sasta Ticket, to come here on stage.
Thank you all for coming today to our panel, which is going to be on travel tech. And it's very interesting because I think travel is one of the few spaces where a lot of work has happened in the last few years. And I'm super excited by the panel because it's such a good mix of all of the people who have been working in this space over the last few years. And I'm actually quite looking forward to learning a few things myself here today. So I think a good place to start today's conversation would be by quickly taking a look back to, I mean, all of us have been in this industry for several years now, right? So we've been building tech, we've been gauging the market. So we'll go one by one, and if you guys could share how technology has changed specifically in travel and tourism in Pakistan over the last few years, and how your startup has played a role in it so far. So Khurram, let's start with you.
Thanks. I think I'd start by sharing a personal anecdote, right, of why local happened.
Yeah.
So right out of college, you guys can hear me, right?
Yeah.
So I remember right out of college, we said we'd go on a little trip up to Murray. For those familiar with Karachi, the only hills we know is Kati Pahadi. So kind of Murray was like a dream come true, right? So we got in a car, we traveled up all the way, spent like a day traveling, reached Murray, and as our luck would have it, it decided to snow in the middle of the summer. Now, there was no booking platforms as such, so it was basically mere chacha ke mamu ke bete, someone had booked some hotel somewhere, and of course, as luck would have it, as we reached, the guy decided not to pick up his phone. Technology. Number two, there's no Google Pin, etc. at that point in time. So then we are stuck, it's snowing. So we started randomly checking, hotels, and then we finally found our hotel. So we go in, now there's no one at the desk. And we're super tired, so we just lie on the floor and just, ended up sleeping right there. And then we snowed enough for them to finally come in and give us, a room. And I think as soon as we went in the room, we were like, now finally we have it. And, when you went in the room, we were like, man, where are we? So I think that's where, and essentially it's as simple as, having a nice bathroom to use, or like having sheets that you could trust, etc., etc. And I think that's where the concept sort of came in. And we said, because we're focused on the budget travel industry per se, we wanted to make sure that we invent a product that kind of just delivers standards and is easy to book, etc., etc. So I think that's why we decided to step into this, and we thought it was a great opportunity. And I'm sure the rest of the panel would have more.
Yeah, so I think just kind of adding on to that, when Khurram talked about just having a certain set of standards, that's kind of what we're trying to facilitate, right? We don't really have properties of our own per se at the moment, maybe in the future, but we are looking for partners like Locale and other brands which have a certain set of standards, so that when people do actually go online and look for something, they can look at the pictures, which didn't exist before. They know exactly what they're booking, the kind of amenities that will be available, where this place is, the Google Pin, etc. So that's kind of what we are trying to facilitate and make sure that whenever you book something online, you get what you pay for and you get what you see. And I think that's in terms of the technology aspect. Roof being a distribution platform will promote places like Locale, and Ascendant will just make sure that everything that goes up is the way that it should look when you get there. So those are the two different scenarios that we're kind of covering with our two products.
I would say BookMe is a little bit unique considering the time that we have been in this market. We were lucky enough to start like almost 9 years ago when there was, I mean, travel tech wasn't really there in the country. We used to have these paper-based, parchi-based tickets where we used to, the bus company used to write or these, ticket numbers or seat numbers with a ballpoint and enter the price also, write the price also on that ticket manually. So our story is a bit different because we started from scratch. We started from ground up, digitizing these intercity bus operators, cinemas, and giving them solution like to bring their inventory online. Fast forward 9 years. Right now the things have totally changed. You have real-time seat plans. You have seats being sold at a different price. So just like in airlines, you have bus seats or other domain, like for example hotels and all that, selling at a different price based on price, occupancy, interest model, making sure that the company that you're working with get more revenue at the same time. Your customers get the lowest possible ticket price or the lowest possible booking price. So yeah, so we have seen I would say like really a revolution in terms of like from where we have started and where we stand right now.
Amazing.
So, like some people have already mentioned, that Pakistan was not really on anybody's tourism map until a few years ago. And because of the efforts that have been taking place over these years, now, not just locally, but even internationally now, publications like Forbes, Condé Nast, they have been publishing that, this could be next possible travel destination. And I believe it's like the collective effort of all of these people that has brought us here. So for like the Mad Hatters, we started off as an experiential travel company and not just focusing mostly on the more touristic areas, but going off the beaten path, because mostly what people know about is like, Hunza, Skardu, or all of these popular places that everybody goes to, but nobody knows about the side valleys. And there's so much rich diversity over there. One of the main problems in Pakistan is that all the development that's happening is happening in these main areas, but nobody's considering what is, a problem, but also a solution in itself, because we can solve the problem of over-tourism in these main areas by growing more destinations. So, so we're like thinking of doing that, and a sister organization came into being, which is Root Network. So we're like training homestay owners and kind of developing, because in Pakistan also, we have to realize that in most of the remote areas, we don't have connectivity or internet accessibility. It's not fair for everybody in all the areas. Maybe in the main cities we do, but in the remote locations, we don't have that sort of infrastructure available at this point. And we would like to change that, but right now we have to make do with what we have available. So we're kind of like building a custom-made model, which is a manual as well as automated, to make sure that the bookings and like we can actually promote these people, give them an online source of access to a bigger market, and give them training and resources so they can, reach out to that market. So.
Yeah, amazing, thank you. Danyaal, I want to just probe a little bit deeper into XN, sorry. And so it's been a few years now. You've been running, and how have you seen the evolution on the hotel supplier space transition over time? And I say this with personal experience because we keep running into that roadblock quite a bit, especially with tech. Mm-hmm. So how's that experience been over there for you?
So it's still quite challenging, right? I think it's a process of teaching the industry what the best practices are. For instance, if I make a booking today on any of the platforms, right, and I go into a hotel, which is not particularly something that's been around a while, let's say it's a guest house in Skardu, when I get in there, the person at the desk will probably ask me to cancel my online booking and offer me a cheaper rate, because he will have to pay a commission on the online booking.
Yes.
But what's happened over time is that the amount of business up until, let's say 12 months ago, was under 20% that was done online. Now it's closer to the 35% mark. So as the industry changes and people realize that this will eventually be the bulk of the bookings coming through, that challenge will disappear. They also have to kind of see added value in the customers that are coming through the online channels, right? There was an instance a couple months ago. I was in Skardu, a coaster full of a family of about 22 people drove up. They came to our hotel, and they hadn't booked anything. They hadn't booked anything, and they came and they were like, "Oh, can we get rooms for 22 people?" And we're like, "You know, you don't have a reservation?" Like, "Yeah, we didn't book. We just thought we'll get here, and then we'll try and find something." And that day, because we cater to about 2,500 hotels in the country, Skardu was particularly full. Like, it was just not gonna be able to furnish that kind of request. Because even earlier that morning, a couple flights had come in and people had been asking around. So that is, I think, when also the customer realized and the hotel owner realized that, look, if this online platform and the connectivity it gives us to be able to measure on the system that Skardu city today is at 97% occupancy, then it solves the bigger problems, like the incidents we had in the Galiyat a few months ago, right? Which was unfortunate. But it's education. It's going to take some time before we get there. But I'm hopeful that, 24 months down the road, everyone will kind of understand why this is a necessity and something that's going to make their business a little more efficient and more productive in every regard.
Yeah, it makes sense. Thank you. And the reason I brought this up is because, as you said, it's not just a supplier problem, it's also a consumer problem. And as the person in between, you're kind of stuck in this weird space because neither of them want to use you right now. And like you said, again, more education is required so that people have a better understanding of what the use case is really for this. The next topic I want to touch on, which has been a huge part of our lives over the last few years, is the pandemic, of course. And before I hand it over, I want to share one of the interesting things that happened with us, and that was, so in travel, we understood that travel just stopped in March 2019, right? It went zero. But for most of us, it didn't just go to zero. We had to refund the thousands of bookings we were making until that moment, right? So it was kind of a negative impact we had, and we had to kind of, you couldn't just shut down the company. You had to keep it running for the customers. You had to start processing refunds. You had to tell them something. So it was a very interesting situation to be in. So again, I'd like to, I don't know, Khurram, if you guys had started already, how was it from your side? And let's take it from there.
Yeah, no, I think the rest of the panel can speak better, because for us, I mean, it was a wonderful time to onboard and partner with hotels, right? Because as the occupancies went down, the supply kind of opened up, and people now wanted to work with local to kind of build those occupancies up back again. So, we got the nicer part of this. And I'm sure, these guys can share more on what happened. But then there was revenge travel, as we talked about, right? So the first 6-12 months, I think, yes, for sure, I think travel stopped. But when it opened up, I think it boomed, right? So I think these kind of depressions and peaks are part of every business. I think as long as you have a sustainable model, I think they average out. So we'd love to hear your thoughts.
So I think really a lot of people got very creative at that time. So one of the bigger hotel chains, the Hashu Group, started selling their rooms in advance. So it was like, whenever we open up, we're going to give you a room, but it's 50% off. But you had to pay up front. So one tactic was that. The other was, like Khurram just said, revenge travel was huge, right? Pakistan became such a more attractive destination for Pakistanis because they just couldn't go anywhere else. So for us, the first 4 months were very difficult. Everything kind of shut down. But we also had the opportunity to bring on more partners. Like these guys were able to bring on more partners, construct their rooms. We were able to convince people as to why this is necessary. And when it all came down, 3 months later, the bookings were the highest ever in the last 3 years. So the pause that came around for about 3 to 4 months was difficult, but it came with its own blessings. And at the same time, when we restarted, things really took a good turn.
I think similar situation with us also. We took like first 5-6 months as a time to just think, okay, let's revamp our whole tech, because I mean, if you're a travel tech company, you have to keep on adding new features, keep your tech stack top of the line. I mean, use I would say the most innovative, I would say like frameworks and all that to keep your customers engaged to your platform and give them a smooth, seamless experience. So for us, it was that time when because I mean, if you're like normal days scaling rapidly, you don't really get time to think about I would say the technology stack that is there for about a couple of years now. So we used that time to improve that. We also looked into other domains. We diversified into a couple of other categories that were not really there before. A few categories that were developed during that time are still in the launch or the beta phase right now. They are not really there in the market, but their tech stack is pretty much there or it's ready. So that was, I mean, I would say a blessing in disguise for us, because it's something that generally don't really happen on every other day, where you get that much amount of time to just think about how you can improve the overall experience rather worrying about the day-to-day operational issues and all.
Yeah, for us, so we mostly work with international clients, and like our business model is mostly focused on having international partners who then send their people to Pakistan, and we manage all of that. So I think in terms of domestic tourism, this was, people were just trapped in Pakistan. They could not go anywhere. So domestic tourism definitely increased in this period. But for international tourists, it took like a lot longer for domestic tourism to open up, because the flights, borders, like every country has different, and it's still like changing on a daily basis. You don't know the rule that's applicable today, it's going to be applicable tomorrow or not. So it took a little bit longer for that, but we took that time also to work on the supplier side. So like route network, it actually came into being at that time, because in the northern areas of Pakistan, mostly the livelihoods of people are dependent upon tourism. It's like 80% of their livelihood, it's like comes from either tourism or it's like agriculture is the other source of income. So we did talk about, whether it's responsible for tourism to open, or like, these people don't have enough health infrastructure available, so that, if there is an outbreak of the pandemic in these areas, in the cities, we do have facilities, but these people would not have those kind of facilities. So we actually came up with a COVID training program. We worked with tour guides, hotel owners, other stakeholders that were involved, and we provided them with some like tools that they could use to safely work during the pandemic, because all of the world's things were opening up. So in Pakistan, like, a lot of times SOPs are not really followed like they are in the other part of the world. Even from the government side, on paper, there are some policies that they write down, but on the ground, how those policies are implemented is like a big question mark. So we did like go to these people, we'd work with them, we told them that, you are the frontline workers who are going to be dealing with tourists, and then you're going to go back to your houses. Then how can you make that contact, or that to make sure that, it does not hamper. So that's like, and then we like started working on women tourism. We did some research, and we onboarded a lot of female tour guides around that time, and the homestays. So most of the work was done on supplier side until we waited the international borders will open up, and eventually they did. So.
Very, very interesting. Awesome. So pandemic is obviously one of the challenges we've all been facing, but that's not the only one. What are some of the other challenges that we've been facing in the travel industry, specifically to your startup, over the last few years? Again, Khurram, if we could start from you.
Yeah, I think the first one, and I think we briefly touched upon it, is mass adoption. So I think you build a tool, but I think it's one, both from a supplier and a customer side, penetrating them and giving them the right benefit articulation of why they should use it, I think is critical. And I think there's like everything, there has to be a tipping point. So you need to continue doing it, building that framework, as Danyaal said, keep pushing the boundaries, and then ultimately it happens. And even in our case, I think we serve 7 cities, but there's certain cities where the hotel owners or the suppliers are looking out for us, because we have had 2-3 case studies combined, that have meant that the local word of mouth is spreading, that technology is helping. So I think one is the pace of adoption. I think the other one, and I genuinely believe technology can misfire as well, right? If not used the right way. So I'll give you an example. We were just talking this. Pakistan is probably one of the only destinations where Booking.com does not have prepayment. And part of the reason for that is most of the uploads that you do, if you own a hotel, I mean, the pictures are often of the neighboring hotel and not yours, which is, you end up mis-selling to the consumer. Yeah. So getting that right, I mean, the first experiences need to be curated in a manner where it becomes part of the belief system and it eases the journey. So adoption and then using it transparently and correctly, I think these are the two things that we need to work on.
And kind of just adding on to, ironically earlier, we were talking about hacks and jugaad. So when you go up to Murray, you will see a horde of gentlemen surround your car and they'll try to sell you a room, regardless of whether or not you've booked one. And then they will take you to a particular property based on what they feel is right for you and your budget. And they make a commission on that, right? And if you already have a booking, but you haven't paid, your incentive at that moment in time is, I've committed to that room, but I haven't paid anything, and this guy looks like he's going to find me something cheaper. So until both sides of the spectrum understand how wrong that is, and we stop with that jugaad system, we won't really be able to, move away from this. But given time and the frequency of how this has decreased, because we've at least tried to legitimize these people, right? That's their livelihood. That's how they make money. So what we've told them is, you know what? Find us customers and people who don't have a room set up already. And what we will do is we will give you commission on the booking you bring. So they become tour operators for us, and we make our hotels happy, they're happy. So we started sharing our commission with them instead of trying to, because we're never going to be able to get rid of them, right? That's just not going to happen, because they have a long-standing relationship with the hotels, with the tour operators, with bus companies. So they're very intertwined and interlinked in that system. So all we could do was really partner with them and kind of educate them as well. So in Skardu especially is where we did this pilot, and you'll see about 30 guys wearing room attire, and that's kind of their job. They whenever someone comes in, they're at the airport, they're at the bus terminals, and they're telling people that, look, this is our website, these are the hotels that we have. If you book, and they're very transparent that if you book through me, I can get you a better price and I'll also make some money on it. So I think that's some of the things that I think that will help improve over time as people adopt and understand why this is necessary.
Makes sense.
I think we had a different sort of problem. I mean, when you're a startup that is like 9 years old, you have different challenges at different times. So it's not the same challenge every day. Every day is a new challenge and all. So our challenge, I would say, in recent times was we've been scaling so rapidly in, I would say, in the last 1 year after the travel had opened up. We're scaling about a 60% month on month. So that was we were scaling at such a fast pace that we were, I would say, getting some trouble, or we were facing some challenges in terms of customer support, because when you have every month with almost 60% new orders, new customers, and all that, you cannot scale your support or other operations that fast. It's not that easy. So, but thanks to the overall global slowdown, I would say, I don't know, but it has given us some time in the last, I would say, 1 or 2 months that we are now focusing on the overall backbone of the support system and all that, and how we can, as soon as the things go back to normal and you have fuel prices, or either you have fuel prices reduced, or you have people that are, now used to pay high, I would say, fair price for air travel or bus travel, for example, or hotel booking. So we are utilizing this time. We're utilizing this, I would say, time to basically fix this kind of challenge that we were facing from last 1 year.
So I think generally, if we talk about the challenges of the tourism industry, it's the instability of the industry itself. Like if we talk about, there are like two phases of tourism in Pakistan before 9/11 and after 9/11. And a lot of people, like now we are seeing players who are coming in with big investment and who are like, going all in into this industry. But until a few years ago, this was like always considered a side industry. So we do lack a lot of trained resources everywhere in every field. Like a lot of the chunk of tourism, it goes to, for example, if we talk about climbing, let's say. So there are so many, because Pakistan is known for climbing. After Nepal, we have the highest number of highest peaks, and it is an adventure tourism destination. So all the expeditions that come to Pakistan, who do they come with? They come with Nepali Sherpas, and that's where most of the chunk of that money goes, because we don't have any trained high altitude climbers who can provide them the kind of services that those people can. So I think, in every field, we lack a lot of trainings, resources, and I think that's what we need to build upon if we want to take tourism as a proper profession, not something that you do on the side when you don't have anything else to do. So, yeah.
Totally agree with that. I think that's the training in this sector is lacking heavily, and something that definitely needs some working on. One of the challenges, at least that we've faced, is around payments as well, and the payment infrastructure, especially the digital payment infrastructure. So I'd also like some thought from you guys on what kind of challenges are you guys running into when dealing with online payments. Khurram, are you accepting online
this
payments?
time, do you wanna start?
Sorry, can you just like, can you just like repeat the?
Yeah, so we're talking about online payments. What sort of challenges are you guys facing with online payments right now?
So online payments, because most of our payments come from internationally, and we don't have any sort of like international payment mechanisms like PayPal so international payments is like, even in case of refunds, you pay, so a lot of people, so I have like, when international payments come into my account, they convert it into rupees, and then I get that payment in rupees. And during the pandemic, I had to do a lot of refunds. And when I had the Pakistani currency is also like, it devalues every day. So like when the refunds were given, we had to give out a lot of money out of pocket than we had actually received. So that's one problem. And other than that, I think international payment mechanisms, credit cards is an option, but then, there are very high transaction fees that you have to pay for getting those payments through credit cards. So I think just payments. And even in remote locations, not everybody, like earlier we had discussion about digital mapping of financials. And so, not everybody has a bank account, not everybody has a CNIC even. So if you're working with people in remote communities, then that becomes a barrier. It becomes difficult to send them payments in those areas.
Okay, so in our case, back in like 2014 when we started, there were no payment mechanisms. We started getting these payment gateways in 2016, 2017. The first few ones were MCB brought their payment gateway. Then we had Easy Pesa for these mobile wallet or these over-the-counter payments. So talk about MCB, talk about Easy Pesa. We were one of those first few merchants who started offering these online payments. So yes, if you talk about, for example, 2016, 2017, we have came a long way, no doubt. But obviously things are not really ideal. Try using an international credit card on the Pakistani payment gateway, and you will understand what I'm talking about. So basically, generally the acceptance rate is extremely poor. And for that, if you talk about BookMe, so we recently introduced Stripe. Because we were also facing challenges from people who are not in Pakistan, they are outside and they are trying to buy their airline tickets, or they are trying to buy bus tickets for their loved ones or family. So they were facing those challenges, and our gateways were not really accepting the payment because they were international card and they are not issued by any Pakistani bank, and payments were being rejected. So yes, there are challenges. So if we once again go back to history, people were not really comfortable paying online. So if we talk about BookMe, we started with cash on delivery. Then we moved to the over-the-counter payment. So people can pay in cash, but to the shopkeeper or the the store where they accept cash and you get a digital notification so you can issue the ticket immediately. Then we moved these, customers to mobile wallets, and then now they are now moving into the credit card thing. So it's an evolution, constant evolution. People are getting more and more familiar with the digital payments. We are not really there, absolutely, but there are workarounds. There are ways how you steer through this. We hope in the next couple of years we improve our payment gateways and systems so we can happily use our local payment gateway to accept even international payments.
So I think we are, quite behind, but still with the addition of the Jazz Cash, Easy Pesa, and then the different mobile wallets, as well as bank transfers, it's at least given customers a few more options, right? So if a guest is arriving and we need to make a payment, we give them all these array of options, so that's made it a little more convenient. The challenge, however, in terms of our client-facing side we still face is when the customer pays to the hotel. In most instances, it's seamless. We bill them at the end of the month. They send us the commission. In some instances, however, they will claim that the customer never showed up, right? We have our own in-house call center that actually does quality check calls, how your stay was, so on and so forth. So if a customer hasn't stayed, they say on the call that, hey, we weren't able to make it. And if they have, they also tell you about their experience. So that becomes a bit of a challenge to tackle. But otherwise, I think, yes, it definitely needs improvement, but there are a good array of options now at least available to be able to process those payments.
Yeah, no, I fully agree with Danyaal, right? So I think from a supplier side, I think you see a lot of work that's happening there. We had a panel just speaking about it right now. I think the evolution will take time. Once again, I go back to a personal example where the first time I ordered something online, I got a box of rocks versus shoes, right? And that kind of discourages prepayments and payments through these checkpoints. So I think which is why I think when the more startups come up, I think businesses starting getting aggregated together, and you start building trust, I think you kind of get the consumer on. So the first month we started, maybe 10% of our payments were online. Today they're close to 70, 80% for us. So it's an evolution. People started trusting you, and that's how you kind of build up. And I think that needs to continue again to make the ecosystem work, because without digital payments being the end solution, I think we'll all fall into the traps that Danyaal was talking about.
Agreed. And the thing that surprised me over the last few years is how fast the digital adoption has happened, right? And 80% is a very high number for online payments. But the challenges still remain. So one of the points that we haven't touched on yet is refunds. So again, high volumes. You are processing hundreds of refunds a day. Each refund is a mess simply because it's going to take, 10 days, 20 days, 30 days, 40 days. Nobody knows. So that part is also a big challenge for us and affects customer service directly, which is quite annoying. But then again, I think the ecosystem is progressing, which is looking good, and there are lots of companies doing different things. And overall, we're all looking like they are going to come up with some good solutions in the coming years so that we can speed up the process. Awesome. Let's move on and let's talk about the future of travel and tourism of Pakistan a little bit. And I want to loop in a perspective from the outside. So if you look outward and see competition in this region, competition on a global level, how they're doing, what they're doing, and what we're not doing today. What are some of the things that you think are super exciting that are upcoming and we'd want them to be implemented in Pakistan? So Aneeqa, any thoughts from your side?
I think the one thing that's really, really missing is that the sustainable aspect of tourism or responsible tourism. So we see a lot of mass tourism happening in Pakistan, and not all of our areas are really equipped to handle that sort of tourism even. our roads. We don't have so in Pakistan, like for domestic tourists, how they travel is that, if they have Eid holidays or there's an extra holiday, they would just like everybody, he had an experience of a coaster full of people coming to Skardu without any prior booking. This is a very common thing, and a lot of times, if I am there in those times, I've actually seen people sleeping in their buses because they could not find a hotel. I've seen people sleeping in hospitals or schools, any place they can find to camp. And then there is, you can talk about the Kailash festival tourism. So I think these are the things that we really need to keep in mind. And the government also needs to come in. So this change needs to happen at a policy level because individuals cannot make this change happen. So climate change is happening all over the world, and we see its impacts happening in Pakistan. Now there's so many landslides happening, and it's actually, we have like a 2-3 months periods of tourism in Pakistan in the summers, and now all of that period is actually gone, mostly in face of these landslides that happen because some people are trapped, a lot of people even die stuck in landslides. So I think this is right in our face now, and we need to change our policies, improve our waste management systems, improve systems, and also educate tourists how they can travel more responsibly and make more responsible choices.
I think my answer is a little bit different. So I believe it's more about the mindset of our general public. Imagine, if you are in any other country and you are in a bus and you just, for example, park that bus right in front of a hotel that we need X amount of rooms. Yes, okay. Generally it doesn't really happen. You book in advance, right? We as a nation have a mindset that, okay, we can do anything. We have that XYZ cousin, or they will call and get the things done for us and all. So, think about, for example, our manners when we go to these northern areas. Look at Europe. You look at, for example, Switzerland. I believe there is nothing really different in terms of the overall landscape there and the north of Pakistan. It's only we are way, way, way dirtier than them. We have too much, I would say, a lot of litter sitting left, right, and center. But over there, you don't see that. We same people, we the same human beings, people of Pakistan, when we go to other countries, all of a sudden we become more mannered, more, I would say, more obedient, right? So we have to think, we have to change our mindset. It's, government can, yes, they can do regulatory duties and all that, introduce some laws and all. But again, it has to do with the mindset. You have to change your mindset that, okay, if you're in Pakistan, you can do anything. And you are the king, you are the, whatever, king of the road or whatever you think, you are actually destroying your country. So we have to change the mindset. And that way we can improve tourism, we can improve our overall reputation as a country. We'll become more safer for solo travelers. So, yeah.
Thank you. So just adding to that, right? Both of these challenges exist. The lack of infrastructure, the fact that we go up there and litter. If you speak to, so I was in Chitral, I spoke to one of the landowners there, and he was like, look, we don't really like you guys coming up here because we didn't have these packets of Lays lying around on our streets and like we do now. So yes, the problem is at our end where we do go up there and litter. And the other issue is that there is no availability of garbage cans. There is no process of getting that litter picked up every day or every week, right? Like there is abroad. So I think it's twofold. So the fact that we need to change the way we function when we go to these places, and also how the infrastructure is really lacking. The outlook, however, is very good. I think we have some of the most beautiful landscapes in the world. We have great places like Diosai. I went for the first time a couple months ago. I was lost. I just couldn't really, I didn't want to leave the place, but it was the first time I had experienced that. So it is still, I think, the lack of infrastructure. If we start working towards that, there's no washrooms for like 6 hours of driving, right? Like it's absurd. So it's little things like this, and it won't take a lot. I think you just need to have an authority that just focuses on this alone and should be able to manage all this. So again, the outlook is great. I think we're a great destination for travel and tourism. I just feel that everybody kind of needs to pitch in and do their part for this segment.
Yeah, I think
Just want to add one more point here. So in Japan, you do not really have trash cans laying there on the roads. You keep your trash in your car. So, I mean, we can do the same. If
It's
we are
about, it's
that
about
much-
culture. You're right.
Yeah,
You're right. It's about having the right.
it's the same people who live here, when they go to Japan, they do exactly what you're saying. So I think from an outlook point of view, I think it's massive, it's growing, it's scaling. I think we've talked about the challenges in terms of sustainability, infrastructure. I think what I'd like to shed a bit of light on is security. Because that is, the first question that any international traveler, and not just vacation traveler, but even corporate traveler would have, right? And I think it's a mix of both the government as well as the private institutions stepping up, right? I don't think you can leave it all to an institution, not in our case at least. So I think it has to be in PP mode where you kind of collaborate and one, solve the actual issues. So fix the entire security infrastructure that's there, provide services that kind of facilitate tourists coming in, and then on the broader map, like market that. I think you've had great examples of Malaysia with Truly Asia, Incredible India, I think stuff like that. I think all of us can do this together and truly market Pakistan as a place which is second to none, like you mentioned, right? And we often compare Pakistan and Switzerland, and we wonder, ये तो ऐसे ही कह रहे हैं. That's not true, but it's actually true. And I've lived 3 years in Switzerland, so I can tell you that I think from a natural landscape point of view, it's as good as it gets. And it's just about making sure that this is discovered, it is sustainable, and then there is security and comfort, when you're traveling without any of those thoughts crossing your mind. So.
Perfect. Awesome. Thank you. I think that was all the time we had today. Thank you all for coming and sharing your thoughts. I think it was very nice. Thank you.
Thank you.